Well, after the extended World Cup draw 24 hours later, we now know where the respective teams will be playing and when. Mark Donaldson alongside Mark Ogden. We'll start with England, Oggy, and your path to World Cup glory, as everyone in England seems to have already identified, will begin in Dallas, England against Croatia. Bigger stadium than Toronto, which was the other option, so more fans will get the chance to see it. What's your take on Dallas instead of Toronto for England's opening game?
Well, as you say, it's an iconic stadium, the Cowboys Stadium. It's got a roof, so the climate will be good for England. But obviously, they're playing Croatia, so I don't think it will be that big an issue. Had they been playing, a South American team or an African team, it might have been a leveler. But I think the issue for me, or the issue for the FA, may be that they would have preferred Toronto. That would have kept them in the northeast, I guess, because obviously the other two games in their group are in Boston and in New Jersey. So having to travel out to Texas, training in Dallas, these are little tiny things. The climate is obviously different down there, much hotter. We know that the US can be hot everywhere, but the Texan heat in the summer could be quite punishing. But that's mitigated by the fact that they're under a roof. So I think it's only a kind of a toss of a coin really what would have been the best venue. But I think, they'd have preferred Toronto, but Dallas isn't bad because it's got a roof.
Getting to Dallas from England, how difficult, how easy could that be? I'm sure it'll be direct flights, but it's a little bit easier to get to Toronto, you would think, but that's not where they are.
Toronto would be a much easier path to get to. Obviously, it's not too far from New York either. So, listen, Dallas it'll be a connection in Atlanta or in New York or, in Chicago or somewhere. It'll be an easy place to get to with a connecting flight, but I don't expect there to be many direct flights on the schedule right now. But I'm sure as we get towards the World Cup, there may be a few more direct flights to Dallas.
So games 2 and 3 for England, it's Ghana in Boston. I say Boston, it's Foxborough, which is about a 35-minute drive south of Boston. As someone that kind of lives not too far from there, you're not walking from Boston Common to the game. It's a trek. They will put on public transport, but decent-sized stadium, nearly 70,000, where the New England Patriots play. And a game against Ghana there, are you happy enough with that?
Yeah, I mean, look, Boston is probably the perfect location for England, and I know Scotland have got a game there as well. It's probably the closest venue to the UK in terms of flights. Very short flight across to Boston. It's got a very, very kind of British feel to it in many ways. So I think it'll be a home from home for England, I guess, in Boston, and I guess for Scotland as well. We're going to chat about later, but yeah, I think Boston is a good venue, big stadium. They'll be happy to be based up there. And I guess I know that England were looking at potentially having a training camp in Kansas City, but I think that may go out the window now because none of their games really suit having a base in Kansas. So I guess they'll look to have somewhere more in the northeast. And Boston is a good base, a good kind of venue for them to play.
Yeah, no need for a Midwest in Kansas City anymore for England with the games in Dallas and in Boston. And then you'll get the chance to sample MetLife Stadium before you return there for the final, England against Panama at MetLife.
That's a bit of sightseeing tour just to get a feel for the place. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, England v Panama, England would hope to be through by that stage. Obviously, we know that they played Panama in Russia 2018 in Nizhny Novgorod, quite a different venue this time in New Jersey. But they put 6 past Panama last time, and I don't think it'll be 6 this time, but I think England should win that game. But, obviously with it being New York, you have to kind of factor in there'll be kind of a heavy Panamanian presence in the crowd that day. I'm not saying the like number of the England fans, but it won't be, 100% England. So, yeah, that's a game that England will enjoy. The fans will love being in New York. Perfect game. Maybe they go back for the final. Who knows?
What are the big things for these venues from an England perspective? You've got the 2 biggest capacity stadiums, Dallas to begin with, and then MetLife, which hosts 80,000. And if there's as much of buzz for the England-Panama game as there was when I was there recently for the Oasis gigs, you'll have quite the party.
One thing I can say about the MetLife, having been there several times this summer for the Club World Cup, that obviously it's an open stadium, there's no roof on it, and from both the sense of heat and thunderstorms, it's not a great stadium to be stuck in if you don't have the sun and you don't get getting wet. And it's also a bit of a trek outside of Manhattan as well. There's a very slow train from Penn Station over to MetLife, so it's an iconic stadium, but it's one of the biggest, but it's not one of the best. I think you might agree with that, Mark.
So here's where you went wrong. This is where you should have called me and had a bit of local knowledge. It's a 10-minute train ride to Secaucus, and then there's a direct train from Secaucus to MetLife that takes about 8 minutes.
It
So
was
that's
more like
maybe.
Thomas the Tank Engine last night. Maybe just totally found that it was very slow. I might have been quicker walking, but maybe not.
Yeah, look, it isn't too difficult to get to from New York City. So England fans are going to enjoy New York City, of course. They're going to enjoy Boston, and they're going to enjoy Dallas. Scotland fans have got 2 games in Boston. There was a chance they might be playing at MetLife. There was always a chance that they would be playing down in Philly for their first 2 games, but both are in Boston. Now, the interesting thing is here at the Patriots Stadium for the first game against Haiti, it's a 9 p.m. local time kickoff, which is fine for people over here, but that's 2 a.m. back in the United Kingdom. That's not ideal. England's games are all earlier. Scotland games are all later.
I'm pretty sure there'll be quite a few bars in Glasgow and Edinburgh open for that one, Mark. I'm sure whether people will be able to see it through the alcohol-fueled, visual effects, I don't know. But listen, and this is a great kind of start for Scotland. They may have a word with Stevie Nicol about conditions and training camps, because as we know, Stevie was Mr. Boston when he was coach of the New England Revolution. So it's right on his patch. I'm sure Stevie will be there cheerleading him along. But look, I mean, yeah, the first game is absolutely crucial for Scotland, isn't it? Haiti, a game that they would expect to win. But as you know, Mark, Costa Rica springs to mind, Iran, Peru. Lots of teams that Scotland should have. Lots of teams that Scotland should have beaten in the past, but failed to do so. But they have to beat Haiti. If they beat Haiti, that gives them a great chance of getting through. And the fact that it's in Boston, it's 9 p.m. at night, the conditions, the climate should suit them. So it's a perfect start, because it gets tougher after the first game against Haiti in Boston.
Yeah, we'll talk about the third game in just a second and where it is. But the fact that Scotland are playing 2 games in the one stadium over a course of a few days, they can keep the same camp, they can keep the same hotel. That's a big boost for Stevie Clarke. And they're not traveling a lot like England are, having to go from Dallas, then up to Boston, and then down to New York. You can basically, you can unpack your suitcase for a little bit.
Yeah, and you know better than me, Mark. I know that Boston, Northeast US, Canada, not far away. There's a huge Scottish population in Canada, so I'd imagine that the Scots will be extremely well backed in Boston. Yeah. It's a perfect location to start. I mean, you may say that Toronto would have been better, but I think Boston is a fantastic place for Scotland to start. And you're right, they played Morocco in their second game in Boston. Painful memories again, I guess, from 1998. Craig Burley will tell us that he scored the last ever Scotland goal at World Cup against Morocco in a humbling defeat.
It was against Norway.
Norway.
He got sent off against Morocco.
Did he didn't score against Morocco, did they? So maybe I'm giving him too much credit there. But yeah, he was sent off against Morocco. So sorry, Craig. But yeah, I mean, Morocco is a tough one. It's a real tough one. I think it's
11th in the world. Yeah,
Morocco and Brazil, you'd expect them to go through in the top 2, but third place is open to some teams to qualify. But Scotland need to get something against Morocco, because you don't want to be facing Brazil in your last game in Miami. You need to get a result. Been there before, haven't you, Scotland?
Yeah. We scored first against Brazil and angered them in '82 with David Neary's toe poke. So, what factor would you recommend as far as sunscreen is concerned for us Scots heading to Miami in June to face Brazil? Is there any factor possible, rather than kind of Dulux paint, that we can put on so we don't get sunburned?
Well, I was in Miami last summer for Juventus against Real Madrid, and the Juventus coach at the time, Igor Tudor, said that the conditions were so hot and so humid that 10 players has to be taken off. It was horrendous. And little story about that game, I was sat in what was called the observer seats and had a white shirt on. And after I left the ground, I noticed on the back of my shirt that the ink that said observer had imprinted itself. It had melted onto the back of my shirt. So I was walking around in the US for a couple of weeks with a white shirt with observer. Obviously, a kind of a mirror effect on my shirt. So Miami's hot, and also it's kind of in between Miami and Fort Lauderdale, isn't it? And it's not easy to get to. That game was either in Miami or in Atlanta in the air conditioned stadium in Atlanta, which would have been, when you play Brazil, you need every advantage you can get. And playing in Atlanta under a roof would have been much better for Scotland than playing in Miami. That is a really bad situation for Scotland. It really is. And like you say, Mark, that if the fans are still, able to kind of put up with the heat by the time they get to Miami, it could be a brutal day. And it's not even a late kickoff; it's 6 p.m. local time, which is still middle of the afternoon in Miami, isn't it?
Yeah, but Brazil will already be through like they were in '98, so they'll play the kids. Scotland, having lost to Haiti, will beat Brazil and then finish as the 9th of the 12 best third-place sides and miss out by 1 goal.
Well, when you mentioned the number 9, Mark, obviously this will be the 9th attempt for Scotland to get out of the group at a World Cup. So, let's hope it's 9th time lucky.
Best things come to those who wait. We've already got England winning the World Cup, Scotland hopefully getting out the group. Let's take a look at some of the other games and where they will be played. France against Norway in Boston. The Patriot Stadium at Foxborough is going to have some good games for those fans in the Northeast, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this for me is probably the game of the group stage, because not because it's France v Norway, it's because it's Mbappe versus Haaland. It's a real kind of super clash, because you've got one of the best players in the world, Mbappe, who's already won the World Cup with France in '98, and Erling Haaland. We all maybe 2-3 years ago thought that Haaland versus Mbappe was going to be the new Messi Ronaldo in terms of Ballon d'Or winners and Champions League winners. Now, obviously, Lamine Yamal has come on and into that conversation right now. I'm sure there are other players that will join it as well. But I think Haaland versus Mbappe in Boston, if you're very lucky if you're in Boston, because you've got some great games, and that for me is the pick of the games of the group stage.
And another one, Cristiano Ronaldo taking on Colombia with his Portuguese pals in Miami again. And obviously those down there in the Miami, Fort Lauderdale area have been lucky enough to see loads of Lionel Messi, and now they're getting Ronaldo as well. That climate shouldn't be an issue for the Colombians or the Portuguese when they play, should it?
No, that would be an amazing occasion. And again, for people that are not familiar with the US and Miami is basically a huge melting pot of South America and Central America. So Colombia will be, Colombia fans travel very well anyway. I remember being in Russia. There were an amazing number of Colombians and Peruvians were everywhere. Now, basically, Miami's just over it's a short hop from Colombia, isn't it? So that day at the Hard Rock, I imagine it will be a Colombia home game. But Ronaldo will love that. He'll love the fact that they are, the away team in Miami, that he'll probably get booed every time he touches the ball because he's not Lionel Messi. So, Ronaldo in Miami, it's his opportunity to steal the stage from his big rival one last time, isn't it?
It is indeed. And finally, we'll end with Lionel Messi, because we've spoken about Ronaldo, and it's now a kind of unwritten rule that if you mention one, you have to mention the other. Otherwise, you get abuse on social media from the pro-Messi or the pro-Ronaldo brigade. So Argentina's games against Algeria will start in Kansas City, the home of the Chiefs at Arrowhead. That's on June 16th. Then they're down to the AT&T Stadium in Arlington, which is where England are playing their opening game against Croatia. Argentina against Austria, their second game is just in Dallas area. And then third up, they stay in that area. So Messi Mania will remain in Texas for the third. Finally, for you, you are about to fly home. You're in DC, having been there for the draw. How was your overall experience of what was quite a unique 24 hours?
Well, listen, journalists, as you know, are prone to moan at everything, and it wasn't a good start today. We were stood outside in the snow for about 90 minutes. There wasn't enough security on to get us in, so it was kind of funny in a way, because there was a lot of people in that queue that probably don't like queuing, aren't used to queuing. The sort of types I mean, that
Oh, yes.
So there's a lot of Louis Vuitton bags with heavy makeup in there, but it was quite funny to watch that. But still, the event was what we expected it to be. It was big, it was brash, it was, Gianni Infantino, Donald Trump sharing the stage. You know what to expect. But I think the excitement of the World Cup always starts with the draw, doesn't it? It starts with the fact that you know who you're going to play, you know where you're going to play, and you start plotting the route to the final. I've had a quick look at what potentially England could get, and there's a bit of excitement in England. But I would temper that with the fact that if England win their group, they could be playing Mexico in Mexico City, I think, in the round of 16, which that would be a big, daunting occasion. Mexico City, Mexico at home in Mexico City at altitude, in a stadium where England have the best record in the world, if we're talking hand of God, 1986.
It wasn't a handball, it was a header.
And if Peter Shilton jumped a bit high, it wouldn't have been an issue at all. And if England get through that, then it's Brazil in the quarterfinals. So it's a tough path if England win the group, because Mexico City would be certainly a great occasion, but listen, I'm just hoping Scotland get through, because all joking aside, it would be fantastic if Scotland were to get out of the group for the first time in ever, basically. Who are they due to meet, Mark? Have you looked that far yet, or can you not work out?
Of course, I've got our path to the final. Don't you worry. We're going to play Curacao in the final. It's the Netherlands if we finish second, and that would be in Monterrey.
Well, Archie Gemmell, we've got some great names from the past. All these games you're throwing at me, Brazil and Netherlands, Scotland got a rich tapestry of history against these teams. What about England? When are they going to play England? Are they going to play England in
quarters?
Quarterfinals.
And if we finish top of our group, then it's likely to be Japan or the UEFA Path B winner in Houston. And hopefully we will see Ireland, Northern Ireland, Wales here as well. So safe travels home.
I was chatting
Sorry?
to Jesse. Sorry, Mark. We were chatting to Jesse Mars, the Canada coach, in the mix zone after the draw yesterday, and he said he really wants Italy to come through that path, but he made it clear. He called Craig Bellamy. He said Bellamy wants to play us. So after they had a little spat in Swansea this year, where Craig Bellamy said, "I want to see you in the World Cup." So that's still on. And you're right. I mean, I think Republic of Ireland could end up in the Mexico group, Group A. So it'd be fantastic if the Republic of Ireland can make it as well, and Wales. I think Wales or Northern Ireland, so it's a toss of a coin. But looking forward to it. It's going to be a great tournament, and counting the days.
One final nugget. The bookies have made a team who haven't even qualified yet as favourites to win Group B above Canada, Qatar and Switzerland, because they are thinking that will be Italy. But they might have to go to Wales. Plenty still to be decided before the World Cup starts in June next year. That's the playoffs in March. But we now know for the teams that are automatically qualified and have qualified through their various regions, they know where they're playing. Full details, espnfc.com. We'll see you again soon. Bye for now.